Wednesday morning research nuggets. We're excited to have you joining us this morning for a half an hour of information and questions on building body confident female athletes and improving girls' sport experiences. So I'm excited about hearing this information. Personally, I'm really looking forward to learning more about this topic today, and I hope you are all as well. My name is Kim Gunther. I'm a leadership and civic engagement educator with the University of Minnesota's Department of Community Development. I'm really grateful to have my colleague, Isabel Hewitt-Link, here with us today. Thanks, Isabel. Helping me to moderate the Q&A, which we will be utilizing later. So keep your questions coming as you're listening as we go along. Just a little bit about these breakfast info bite sessions that Isabel and I are hosting. They're happening on the third Wednesday of most months from 8:30 to 9 a.m. So we hope that you're able to grab a cup of coffee and enjoy your morning with a splash of aha and a spoonful of fascinating, as we like to say. So as we discuss really a broad range of topics that apply to the lives and the leadership of Minnesotans across the state. And with that, I am pleased to introduce our speaker this morning, Anna Goorevich. Anna is a doctoral student pursuing a PhD in kinesiology and sport sociology at the University of Minnesota, where she also serves as a research assistant at the Tucker Center for research on girls and women in sport. And her research interests involve around the gendering of sport and coaching and sport leadership and menstruation in sport. So with that, I am going to turn the screen over to Anna and let her take it away. So thank you, Anna, for being with us, and the screen is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim and Isabel, for having me. Super excited to be here today to talk about a topic that I hope is a really fun one and one that's really close to my heart. And also, I hope to your hearts as potentially athletes yourselves, parents of athletes, friends of athletes, or just sport fans. And just to start a little bit about the Tucker Center, we are a first of its kind research center completely dedicated to the study of girls and women in sport. We are based at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus in the School of Kinesiology, and our overarching goal is to accelerate systems change for girls and women in sport. And we do that through research, education, and outreach. So if you head on over to tuckercenter.com, we have tons of free resources for lots of different aspects of women's sports, whether it's the business of women's sports, how do we coach girls in sport, how do we elevate more women leaders in sport. There are endless options there. So I want to start off. I hope you recognize some of the figures and folks and teams on the screen here, and really to highlight that there has never been a better time to be a women's sports fan. And if you're not yet a women's sports fan, there's still time to jump on the bandwagon before it even becomes even more popular. And there's also never been a better time to be a Minnesota women's sports fan. Minnesota really leads the country in women's sport opportunities and success. And I hope you all are Lynx fans because tonight there is the game 3 of the WNBA finals. I'll be there at the Target Center. I'm so excited. And I'm not from Minnesota, and this is the first time of my life being able to see a championship team. Hopefully I didn't just curse the Minnesota team or something, but hopefully you can break a Minnesota curse and win a championship. So if you're not there at Target Center, I hope you'll be watching on TV. And of course, we have Caitlin Clark, the championship winning PWHL team. So yeah, Minnesota is really the heart of women's sports. And at the Tucker Center, we are so lucky to also be at the heart of that growth in women's sport. And while I would love to talk about all the exciting things happening in women's sports, I'm going to switch gears a bit today and talk about a big crisis that's going on in the world of women's sports. And that crisis really concerns the low sport participation rates for girls in sport. And today, this is something the Tucker Center has been working on for the past 30 years of how do we get more girls in sport. And today I'm going to share with you all a few of our research-based coach education programs that we have developed at the Tucker Center that aim to eradicate some of the barriers that keep girls out of sport. And the two tools I'm going to highlight today are called Coaching Her and Body Confidence Sport. These are two completely free online, globally applicable coach education tools that are supported by Dove at Nike and co-created by our team at the Tucker Center and our colleagues at the Center for Appearance Research in the UK. Before, though, I dive into what exactly these tools are, how do they work, how can you all get involved in them, I'm going to give a bit of an overview of the state of play for girls in sport and what's are actually the barriers that are keeping girls out of sport. Researchers across the country and at the Tucker Center have documented a lot of different barriers that keep girls out of sport. And we know from the research that girls are less physically active than boys, they enter sport later than boys, and they drop out earlier than boys. And the impacts can be long lasting, where we've seen over time that girls who drop out of sport experience a lot of health, developmental, and academic gender disparities compared to boys. Girls are also twice as likely to drop out of sport in adolescence, and the key age of dropout is the age of 14. And this is really alarming as researchers, and I hope as parents and as teachers, is that adolescence is a time when kids are going through puberty. There might be those awkward phases. Kids might be struggling with self-confidence and self-esteem. And sport is an arena where athletes can really boost their confidence and self-esteem. So we're seeing girls drop out of sport at precisely the time when they might need the benefits of sport the most. And additionally, physical activity is key to a healthy life, as we know, and a person's quality of life and their sport habits actually develop in adolescence. And our research has shown that sport participation in adolescence actually predicts rates of sport participation and physical activity into adulthood. This slide is what we call the socio-ecological model for girls in sport. And there's a lot of circles here, but I'll break it down. And this chart really shows how girls experience many different barriers through interpersonal levels, organizational structures, and societal beliefs and attitudes. And I'll give an example of each type of barrier to help us walk through. So the largest circle, the largest red circle, represents the social systems that keep girls out of sport. And a societal barrier can be different gendered biases and gendered stereotypes that shape what it looks like to act like and be a girl in our society. For example, a stereotype could be that girls aren't interested in sports, or girls should only participate in feminine coded sports like gymnastics or dance and avoid maybe more sports that are assumed to be more masculine like rugby or ice hockey. That middle circle represents organizational barriers, and this represents how there are some systematic structural resource allocation inequalities that keep girls out of sport. So for example, there's far fewer sport opportunities and sport programs offered to girls than there are for boys. Finally, that smallest circle represents the interpersonal level, and that refers to the people, the social agents that are in girls' lives. So parents, coaches, teachers, friends, and how those interpersonal reactions and pressures and expectations might shape a girl's ability to participate in sport. So for example, if a parent expects a girl to fulfill more household duties and chores, that will keep them they'll break up time for them to participate in sport compared to boys. So those are a few how we kind of understand what types of barriers impact girls. And what's important is that no two girl experiences the same barriers based off of intersectional identities. A person's race, their identity, their ability levels, their religion, and so on and so forth. All these different identities impact how girls experience through the world, how they experience different barriers and privileges and oppressions in sport. Coaches are hugely impactful on girls' sport experiences. I was an athlete all my life, and if you all are athletes or have been athletes, you know that there's probably really great coaches that have enhanced our experiences, that have made us love the sport and created really enjoyable and memorable times for us. But there's also, unfortunately, some really not so great coaches that might have ruined experiences, that might have made us want to quit or drop out. And unfortunately, that is an all too common experience for girls in sport. And coaches are often the number one reason why girls drop out of sport. And that's often because coaches aren't trained with evidence-based information, and they often unknowingly reproduce damaging stereotypes. Coaches can act controlling, they can surveil girls' bodies, or even worse, harass or abuse girls. So this is where we come in with coaching her in body confidence sport. Based off 30 years of research at the Tucker Center, we've created coach education tools to help coaches better engage with girls and retain girls in sport. So these two programs, they're kind of sister programs. Coaching Her helps broadly address and eliminate gendered stereotypes in sport. And Body Confidence Sport helps coaches understand how to create body positive environments for girls in sport, because poor body self-esteem, eating disorders, body image, these are also huge issues. Another number one reason of why girls drop out of sport. And through these tools, coaches can learn how to address some of the unique gendered concerns that girls have in sport that boys might not face in sport experiences. First things first, before we even started coaching her, we asked coaches themselves about what they need to better coach girls in sport. Because oftentimes coaches haven't been taught this experience. Coaches work in a very masculine-centered, male-centered sport environment where they haven't been taught how to coach girls in the best ways. And so they feel uneducated about some specific gendered experiences. For example, coaches don't know how to talk about periods with their athletes. And especially at that adolescent age, that's a key moment in girls' lives that coaches might have to navigate, and they don't know what to do because they've never been taught. So talking about the menstrual cycles and puberty is something that we will be covering in coaching her. It's also, girls might face specific, unique mental health issues. They might experience different confidence issues and also feel different types of body image pressures compared to boys. And coaching her attempts to teach coaches how to navigate all of these different issues. Coaches are also not aware of how conscious and unconscious gendered biases and stereotypes impact the girls that they coach. A gendered stereotype is broadly defined as an assumption that someone will look, think, or act a certain way just because they are male or female. And gendered stereotypes are unfortunately all around us. It's really hard to avoid them because they get enacted by not just coaches and parents and friends and people in girls' lives, but also the media. Opening up our phones, there's gendered stereotypes everywhere, all over social media. And so that means that girls themselves may internalize these outdated and harmful beliefs. And I'm going to list a few of common gender stereotypes in sport that might sound familiar. For example, these assumptions that girls aren't sporty, the assumptions that all boys are better athletes than all girls. This idea that girls aren't competitive or aggressive or confident, that they might need more support, that they might need more push to be competitive and confident, or even channeling girls into certain more ladylike sports like dance or gymnastics and avoiding sports that might require more physical aggression like rugby or ice hockey. Unfortunately, there are extremely negative impacts of gendered stereotypes on girls. And we know from our research that when girls experience and report higher levels of gendered stereotypes, it can lead to many negative psychosocial and behavioral outcomes. For example, girls might experience negative body image, lower enjoyment in sport, lower confidence, and most importantly, experience increased dropout due to gendered stereotypes. So what we want to do is start to address how do we change these gendered stereotypes and avoid them in sport. And because sport is one context where we should be empowering girls to be their full selves and love their bodies and love their competitive, aggressive, their sporty, athletic selves and not avoid that. So if you were to go into your web browser and type in coachingher.com, this is the page that will show up. This is our homepage. And Coaching Her is a completely free, virtual, globally applicable coach education program that's built for anyone who coaches girls that's in some sort of capacity, whether it's little league or weekend soccer games, or if you're a full-time coach. Parents and teachers can take Coaching Her, really anyone that's engaged in some sort of coaching or mentorship of athletes. And Coaching Her is a really unique program. And if you've ever coached athletes before, you've probably taken some sort of coach education program in order to start like coaching. And there's so many different coach education programs and licenses, but Coaching Her is unique in a few ways. It's energized by dynamic and engaging content with videos and games and case studies that make the lessons really applicable to coaches' real lives. It's supported by evidence-based scientific validation. Of course, we're a research center. We run all the numbers, we do all the statistics to help prove that Coaching Her actually works and is an effective program. It's developed by world-renowned experts across the Tucker Center and the Center for Appearance Research, and it's supported by Dove and Nike, leading brands in the sport and appearance industries. And importantly, it's co-created with girls and coaches themselves. And co-creation has been at the heart of Coaching Her. And what this means is that we hosted, over a process of 2 years, hosted workshops with coaches and athletes in France, India, Japan, Mexico, the UK, and the US, and where we asked coaches and girls themselves about what they need, their experiences, and what their preferences for intervention are. We asked girls what their preferences for coach behaviors were, and we ensured that girls and coaches provided regular input on these tools every single step of the way, which is actually really rare in coach education. And of course, given that we're a research center, we have proven through research that this product actually works. Coaches that took Coaching Her and Body Confidence Sport found that the modules were easy to follow, they were relevant, they were appropriate, and most importantly, enjoyable and fun. And coaches who completed Coaching Her and Body Confident Coaching reported higher self-efficacy or self-confidence in addressing body image concerns. They reported lower levels of fat phobia and lower levels of gender biases compared to coaches who did not take these programs. So Coaching Her, the data shows us that it really works in helping coaches create more positive environments for their athletes. And I want to end by inviting you all to take Coaching Her and Body Confidence Sport, visit the websites, or invite any friends or family you know that are interested in coaching or that do coach athletes, regardless of whether or not they're boys or girls, because all coaches can become better coaches by learning how to acknowledge there's unconscious biases that we have are in this world. And you can do that by visiting coachingher.com and Body Confidence Sport. And yeah, I will pass it off to you all, Isabel and Kim, and welcome some questions.
Great. Yeah. So the Q&A should be open. So if you find the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, we invite you to type in your questions, and Isabel and I will see those and get those to Anna for her response. So at this time, please, if you have questions, throw them in there. While we wait for those to come in, you mentioned, as you talked about Coaching Her, that it's a free, really unique program. Is that self-paced, or are there like cohorts that how does it operate? Do people work through that program at their own speed and pace, or how does that function?
Good question. Yes, it is self-paced. So anyone at any time can go on and start the modules. It also saves your progress so you can return back to it. There are currently 6 foundational modules on coachingher.com, and then on Body Confidence Sport, there are 3 Body Confidence Sport modules. So there are 2 different websites, but they're all connected. They will take you to the same place. They just live on kind of 2 different web interfaces. But yeah, self-paced, each module takes about 20 minutes to complete, and it will save your progress for you. And you get badges and that you can share with your coaching programs and things like that to help with licensure and all that.
Okay, very good. Yeah, lift up Nike and Dove and the Tucker Center for you guys' partnership on this. That's a really cool endeavor that you've taken on. Sounds like you're doing lots of really great work there. Before this started, we were talking a little bit about Ilona Maurer. How do you say her name? Is that
Ilona Mar?
Ilona Mar? Yeah, she was the Olympian rugby player, and I follow her on Instagram. If other people don't follow her, you should. She's doing really cool things out there, I think, in terms of women and sport and body image. She's on Dancing with the Stars right now, and she has a great Instagram page. Do you have thoughts on her or on other ideas about how athletes can be, challenged or empowered to challenge kind of some of those harmful stereotypes or unrealistic expectations related to either their bodies or just being a female athlete in general?
Yes, and I totally agree. Ilona Mar is just really an incredible role model that we're seeing right now in the world of sport. For so long, the images that girls across the country and across the world had been exposed to what the ideal woman athlete was typically the super hyper feminine kind of sexualized athlete where they have to have super thin toned bodies And that was really what was viewed as the ideal athlete, which is obviously a really unattainable, really harmful stereotype of what an athlete should look like. So folks like Ilona Maher are really breaking that mold by being really outspoken of that you can have bodies that might be not look traditionally blonde, supermodel, thin, toned, and feel confident, feel beautiful in those bodies, and challenging those stereotypes of what it looks like to be an athlete. And so it's really cool to see that we have role models nowadays that are directly talking about that. I also follow her Instagram and TikTok, and she's constantly talking about both her kind of the grapplings that she has with herself and navigating this space where there are so many athletes that look kind of that toned, fit, ideal, feminine norm. So I think the advice I would give for athletes and for coaches is to keep kind of leaning towards role models like Ilona and role models of that look like them, same identity role models by race, by gender identity. I think we're with the power of social media being what it is right now, we're seeing so many different types of bodies in sport being given the spotlight and focusing on athletic ability and power and confidence rather than appearance and fitting an ideal or norm.
Yeah, that's great. All right, we have a couple of questions here. So the first one, how as coaches or organizations can we break stereotypes with families and girls that certain sports are too hard, too physical, dangerous for our daughters? And then in parentheses, it says, welcome to the state of hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like hockey definitely is an interesting culture of trying to figure out like how to boost. There's a big participation problem among girls in hockey, especially USA Hockey is really trying to boost the numbers of girls participating for good reason, especially in Minnesota. So how to break stereotypes? I think key is kind of showing role models similar to the Ilona Maher question of exposing parents and coaches and athletes themselves to powerful women that are doing those exact things of being aggressive, being confident, and putting themselves in situations that maybe aren't the stereotypical norm of what a woman should, quote unquote, do. And also giving athletes the opportunity to try different types of sports. Something that's really important at youth is sports sampling, and for both boys and girls of trying different types of sport. Don't channel athletes into one sport. It's really easy to sport specialize, especially in the US and our culture, to this pressure to really just like dive all into a sport, which can be really, yeah. So I digress. But anyway, yeah, I think exposing athletes to role models in those spaces that are doing those types of activities and breaking down those stereotypes that no matter what, all girls can be aggressive, they can be confident, they can body check, they can slam into the boards the same way that boys do and be okay, and they're not going to fall apart because girls aren't fragile, and giving them the opportunities and spaces to build and resources to build strength the same way that you would boys, especially access to gym, access to trainers and things like that can help give girls those confidence with their bodies.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right, next question. For a parent, what can I do to encourage my daughter to stay involved in sports as she ages?
Great question. And parents, just like coaches, are hugely impactful on girls' sport experiences. And I think there's a few different ways that parents can help. One is focusing on the fun of sport. Kind of what I said with the sports specialization, there's a lot of pressure in our society for sport to only be achievement focused, where everyone wants their kid to have a college scholarship or to meet the highest level or to win the game. And that can be a really difficult place for a kid to have fun in sport. The reasons why sport are so beneficial for kids is not just because they're getting out and getting active and they're burning off some energy and they're developing good fitness habits, but they're also spending time with friends and they're developing social skills and they're developing the psychological skills. And that's the part that keeps kids in sport, is the fun, is the ability to socialize and let their bodies try new things and express themselves. So I would say, as much as you can, resist that pressure to be achievement oriented and to be fun oriented. And that might be allowing your kids to try different types of sports. Maybe they can try some of the sports like dance or gymnastics, but then also do ones that are the hockeys and the soccers and the basketballs, letting kids follow their passions and, expose them to role models, people like Caitlin Clark, like Alona Mar, and all different types of sports, and finding the opportunities for them to try those things as much as we can. And so giving athletes agency, choice, and focusing on the fun are the ways that I would encourage parents to keep them kids in sport.
Very good. That's great. Yeah, we focus on that too. I know every time my kids get out on the field, one of the goals that we have is to have fun. And that's the first question we ask. Did you have fun? In what ways? And rather than did you win or lose, how much fun did you have? What was fun about it?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. How can we encourage and recruit more female coaches to enter the youth sport world?
I could do a whole many hour long talk on just this topic. So I won't bore you with that, but I'll do a few ways that we can help encourage girls and or women to enter coaching. So women are super underrepresented in coaching. At the Tucker Center, we do something called the Women in College Coaching Report Card, where we track the rate of women in college coaching, and especially the women who coach women's teams in NCAA Division I sports. And that rate hovers around 45%. It's growing a bit. Our most recent report card had it grow to about 46%, which is super exciting, actually. That 1% was like a huge celebration. And so it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was for us. And there are a lot of, and we know that female role models are super important for keeping girls in sport. Having same identity role models with similar experiences does wonders to help improve girls' confidence and enjoyment in sport. And how we can help encourage more women to enter sport coaching is number one, exposing them to visible role models that do the same. We know from the research that girls who have female role models in sport leadership are more likely to enter coaching and see that as a viable career path. We also know that female coach networks are hugely impactful on keeping women in sport coaching, especially there's kind of this old boys network in sport coaching. It's a very male dominated industry. It's a type of industry where men help each other out, give each other jobs and opportunities, and we don't see women doing that in the same way. And so building and cultivating networks of women coaches to help support other women when certain gendered issues come up, to help share experiences, knowledge sharing, and even opportunity sharing, it does wonders in improving the rates of women coaches. We also know that we need to ask sport directors and kind of hold sport directors accountable for their hiring practices and diversifying candidate pools, not just giving the job to their buddy that they knew in high school or things like that, but expose it, looking at different kind of recruitment channels to help invite women to coach, especially in our post-Title IX world. We're 50 years out of Title IX, and so many women have now had sport experiences and are capable of coaching, but they just have never been asked. And so, especially in maybe if you're a parent and you're thinking about coaching, but you haven't been asked, and you're a woman, but you played soccer your whole entire life, you probably might have more soccer experience than a lot of the men that are out there coaching. And imploring sport directors, athletic directors to ask women and to reach out to them is also a key way of how we can help raise the number of women coaches.
Very good. That is perfect. Thank you, Anna, so much for your information. I'm really looking forward myself to diving in a little bit more to these websites and finding out a little bit more about these programs. In the essence of time, I do want to pass to Isabel really quick, just to give kind of an update on where we're at with next month's Breakfast Bites and the date. And Isabel, what do you have for us?
Yeah, thank you for those of you that have joined us today. Thank you, Anna, for such an engaging and timely, just great presentation that impacts a lot of people's lives. And we hope that attendees, you will all be able to join us next month for our next iteration of Breakfast Info Bites on November 20th at 8:30 a.m. We're still working on securing the topic, but fingers crossed it's going to be a very exciting edition as long as all goes according to plan. So please keep your eyes out for that registration information and the launch of the special edition topic that we're hoping for on November 20th next month. So look forward to seeing you all. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this issue of Breakfast Info Bites.
Yeah, and I will send out a follow-up email to all of you with some of the resources that Anna made available and her email in case you have direct additional questions. She's agreed to allow us to do that so that you can reach out to her directly. If you want more information, we'll put up the slides and the recording of this video as well, and encourage you to share it with anyone in your communities who might be interested, or coaches that might want to see it. So with that, it's 9 a.m. We'll get you back to your work day or your whatever you have going on for your day. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee, and we hope to see you next month in November.